Excel. So we can just pop right out. The next thing I want to briefly mention before we move on is interoperability. Most likely you are going to be dealing with Excel versions that date back as much as a decade in some cases. Unfortunately, these documents, they will work in your setup. This is great. Microsoft has done a great job to make sure they will function in the current version of Excel. Unfortunately, the current version, Excel 2007, will not function in older versions. That is a problem. There is a workaround. It's a couple extra steps, and there's no guarantee that it'll work for sure every time. So really, if you have people who are still on 2003 in your environment, it's probably better for you to be on the 2003 version due to the many complications that can arise between the conflicts between Excel 2007 and 2003. Now before we go jumping to conclusions accusing Microsoft of actually trying to control the environment and force people to buy the new version, it's actually one of the few times where you would be wrong. Microsoft did this in order to move along with the industry as a whole. Competing versions of applications against Excel and Word and whatnot switched to a document type called XML. XML is a universal type, and that works on all computers and all applications. It allows one program to talk to the next without issues, and it's really being adopted across computing in almost every conceivable way. So that's definitely something you need to understand, that this was not a move by Microsoft to cause a problem, but the exact opposite. Microsoft did a great job between Office 97, 2000, 2002, also known as XP, and 2003 of creating a perfectly interoperable environment. And they created a nice 4-year gap between 2003 and 2007 for us to get ready to move to this XML platform. And this is great. This actually allows us to jump back and forward between competing versions of these applications such as OpenOffice.org or KOffice. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go to File and Save, and you're going to see the saved document comes up, and I can give it a name like Test, which is fine, but the more important thing here is Save As Type. I'm going to click on this guy. Right now, if I save it as this Excel workbook and hit Save, it's now on my desktop. I'm going to go, My Documents, and here we have the document. But on the other hand, I can go File, Save As, and select the older version of Excel, Excel 2003, and Save. And again, we're going to have both in here. You're going to notice the difference in the icon. The old, little more blockier look versus the more fluid version that represents the current version. And it even tells you Excel 97 through 2003. And all those versions of Excel are, for the more or less, completely interoperable without problems. This version, on the other hand, will be the future, especially working with Linux users, Macintosh users. This is what you want to work in if you're starting a new office environment. If you have a new work group building from scratch, you want to put everything in this format. It's an open standard, it's well adopted, everyone's going to be using it. This is just the way to go. You don't want to use these unless you're dealing with legacy applications. You also notice there's a few other things in here. We're going to let the Save As open up. And we have macro enabled, which we'll get into much later on. And down here, other formats. That opens up the page we're used to. We can save as straight XML, which is not recommended. We can save as a web page. We can put it on the internet or your Microsoft SharePoint sites or Wiki if you're working with those at work. And we can just keep going on and on and on. Multiple old versions of Excel, comma-separated files, and we'll talk about a few more of these, but you'll need them for particular business needs. Otherwise, just ignore these. They're not going to be something you come into all the time. And with that, we'll start up the next video. See you soon.